If you're not intentional about staying connected, you will drift.
So let us do, and change together.
Welcome back to Be the Change. In our last episode, we talked about how becoming the change can feel hard. But today, we want to go one layer deeper. Because sometimes the real struggle is not starting, it is staying. Staying consistent, staying grounded, staying connected to who we are becoming. When life gets busy, distracting, or overwhelming. Because the truth is, life has a way of pulling us away from our intentions, away from our discipline, away from our relationship with God. Lara, have you ever felt like you were doing well and then slowly drifted?
Yes, and I think many people don't talk about this enough. Drifting doesn't happen suddenly, it's subtle. You don't wake up one day and decide to disconnect. It happens little by little. You get busy, you get tired, you postpone things that matter, and before you realize it, you are no longer as grounded as you used to be. And what's dangerous is that from the outside, everything still looks fine. But internally, something has shifted.
That's it. Because becoming the change is not just about action, it's about connection. And when the connection weakens, everything else starts to follow. You can still function, you can still perform, you can still show up, but you are no longer anchored. There is a powerful image in John 15 that we don't want to wash through because it explains everything we are talking about today. Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Let's make this very practical. A branch by itself has no life. If you cut a branch from a tree, it may look the same for a moment, but slowly it dries, it weakens, it withers, and eventually it cannot produce anything. And that's the part we don't always recognize in our lives. Because sometimes we can look fine on the outside, but inside we are slowly disconnected.
Yes, and the branch doesn't struggle because it's weak. It struggles because it's disconnected. And that changes everything. Because it means the issue is not always effort, it's connection.
Exactly. Jesus doesn't say, try harder. He says, remain in me. Stay connected, stay attached. Because the life, the strength, the clarity comes from the source. So, let's make this very real and practical. What does it actually look like to stay connected to God? It's not complicated, but it must be consistent.
It looks like prayer, not just when something is wrong, but daily conversation with God. Meditating on the word, not just reading, but letting it shape how you think, and also community.
Yes, community is very important because the Word of God reminds us not to abandon gathering together. We are not meant to walk this journey alone. Sometimes connection to God is strengthened through connection with others.
That can look like a prayer partner, a small group, a church community, or even one person who helps you stay accountable.
Because, let's be honest, left alone, we drift faster. Because we all need structure, we all need rhythm, we all need something consistent that keeps us connected. If you're not intentional about staying connected, you will drift. That's the truth. Not because you're a bad person, but because life is busy, life is distracting, life pulls you in many directions.
So, staying rooted is not automatic, it's a choice, a daily choice.
And this is why the story we are about to share matters so much. Because sometimes we think, yes, Jesus stay connected because it's Jesus, he's God. But what about us? Let's now talk about Peter. Peter walked with Jesus. He saw miracles. He heard the teaching. He was close, very close to Jesus. And yet, he still drifted.
Yes, in one moment, Peter was bold. He says, I will never deny you. He is confident. He is committed. He feels strong. But just a short time later, under pressure, in fear, he denies Jesus. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
And this is important because Peter didn't plan to fail. He didn't wake up and decide to disconnect. No, he followed at a distance. And that's how drifting often begins. Not with rejection, but most of the time with distance.
But the story doesn't end there. After the resurrection, Jesus comes back to Peter, not to shame him, not to reject him, but to restore him.
And he asked him a simple question. Do you love me? Not why did you fail? Not why did you drift? But are you still connected to me? And Peter says yes. And Jesus responds, feed my sheep.
That moment shows us something powerful. Drifting is not the end. Disconnection is not the end. What matters is your willingness to return.
Yeah, indeed. And Peter became a pillar of the early church. Not because he was perfect, but because he came back.
So let's ask you honestly, where are you right now? Are you deeply connected or slowly drifting? Are you rooted or just functioning?
Good questions. If you feel disconnected, this is not failure. This is an invitation to come back, to reconnect, to realign. Maybe the goal is not to never drift. Maybe the goal is to never stay far.
Before we close, we want to leave you with this. You don't have to be perfect to stay connected. You just have to be willing to return.
Yes, the strength of your life will always be tied to the depth of your roots. So this week, don't try to do more. Just go deeper.
One moment of real connection is more powerful than a week of empty activity.
No matter where you are,
Stay rooted and let us
be, do, and change together.